Yo, what's up? Today we're going to talk about a very special but also complicated squad, the Mortar Men. This squad intrigues many players, especially new ones, because unlike every other squad in the game, it doesn't directly attack the enemy, but uses indirect fire with its mortars. And they're exactly what makes the squad so difficult to use, because they're not just complicated to operate on a basic level, but they're even more challenging if you want to have success with the mortar squads. And that's why I made this guide for you, saving you a lot of time and a lot of pain, making it quickly possible for you to get dozens of kills with this fancy squad. And we start with the basics. What is a mortar and what is a Mortarman squad in Enlisted? Very simple. A mortar is a little infantry howitzer. Unlike the big howitzers that require artillery mechanisms or tank hulls to move around, these are so small and so relatively light that they can be carried by normal infantry soldiers, giving infantry soldiers the advantage of having quite the big firepower that they usually wouldn't be able to have. And you can't even get this type of firepower with grenade launchers, because grenade launchers are still limited to the caliber of your rifle and have very limited range. These mortars, though, have significantly better range, and due to the saturation that they can give you on the target, they can blow up a lot of things. They can't just blow up infantry, they can even blow up tanks. Because if they shoot, they don't shoot in a straight line or in a slightly curved line. No, they're shooting in an arc. First they fly upwards and then they fly downwards. This gives you multiple advantages. First, you can hide somewhere on the map and then shoot 100 to beyond 200 meters around the map onto enemies that can't see you, and you don't even need to see them yourself. So this is a big advantage. You're well hidden. It only requires you one soldier to get a lot of firepower on the battlefield, and you can shoot behind walls, you can shoot behind buildings, behind whole villages, behind forest lines, and you can shoot, since the grenades will be falling down from the sky, you can perfectly hit the weak tops of tanks. And this makes mortars not just effective against waves of infantry, but also against gray zone camping tanks, against APCs, against all types of structures like anti-tank guns and anti-air guns enemies might have built, and just infrastructure in general. If people placed a bunch of sandbag hiding at a rally point, you can blow it up. So mortar squads, highly flexible when it comes to the targets, which is something many people underestimate because they don't expect them to be effective against tanks. And even if you're using the small mortars against stronger tanks, strong tanks will be usually easily blown up if you have a heavy mortar, because not a single tank in the game can survive a direct mortar hit on its own turret, not even the mighty King Tigers. But if you're using the small mortars, they will be able to survive it. They will even survive it without a scratch. Though some of these tanks still have weak spots, very often on the back side of the hull, where the engine top is. That's usually quite easily damaged, and also just shelling randomly hitting the barrel, the cannon of the tank, oftentimes will just destroy the barrel, very elegantly taking that tank out too. The best way to learn the Mortar Man is in the practice range, because here you can, without the stress of a real game, do everything at your own pace without being shot at and get a good feeling for the mortar mechanics. So here's how it works. We have your mortar soldier. A squad can have 2 maximum, and you absolutely want to have 2, since it just doubles your ammunition and makes sure that if you lose one soldier, you still have your second one. Then you have your primary rifle, and your secondary weapon is the mortar. If you just switch to the mortar, you can still run around, though you get a speed penalty because it's heavy and you're slower. If you click left, you're replacing your mortar. And here's what happens. You see in the center of the screen your aim distance. And if you push your mouse to the front, you increase the shooting distance. And if you push the mouse closer to you, you decrease the distance by aiming higher with the mortar. Now, this obviously doesn't really help us hitting the stuff we see in front of us, because we don't have any help that shows us how far things are away. Now, there are a few ways that actually help you get distance assists. First of all, if you're in a real game, the game automatically shows you the distance to an objective. Like objective A, objective B, you will always see a red number on the map. This helps a lot. Then, if someone marks something, especially tanks or anti-air guns, stuff like that, you also get a distance number. But if you don't get any distance numbers on the map, what you do is you just click M and then you hold Alt and then you just click on anything with right click and you place this permanent marker. Permanent means it's there for 1 or 2 minutes. And now, switching to the mortar and clicking it, placing it, we see this red distance number, which is 115 and 37 for the random marker I accidentally dropped. And you see also the circle icon around the 115 distance marker, so we know, yeah, 100% this is our marker. Now all you do is you just push the mouse front and back until you get the perfect distance, which is 115, and then make sure you perfectly align yourself in the center, so not too far left or too far right. Perfectly get your center of the mortar aiming at the marker, and then you just hold left. Well, this is just one click is one shot. By holding it, you just get the maximum shooting speed and you can shoot all of your ammunition. You can also switch by clicking R to your secondary ammunition, which is smoke shells. And you see, our first shells are arriving now. It usually takes roughly 13 seconds for the shells to arrive. And these smoke shells will arrive too now. And you see, yep, it's getting smoky over there. Now, after spending all your ammunition, you can either switch to the next Mortar Man and start placing and aiming again and then shooting again. Or you build ammo boxes with your engineer. And now you can, after shooting all of your stuff, use these ammo boxes and you have ammunition again. Though only reload if your soldier is empty, because as you see, even if you shoot a few shells, the whole ammo box is going to disappear. And it's a waste of ammo boxes to just refill a little bit. Also, you won't have infinite ammo boxes that you can build, so they're limited. Especially if you're playing only one engineer in a squad, so you want to be as efficient as possible. Now let's try blowing up these two ammo boxes that I placed there. We switch to our mortar and we see it's a 52 meter distance. Alright, let's aim. And yeah, this is 53, this is 52. This is a bit too far right, yeah, this is perfectly centered. And we wait roughly 13 seconds. And then we should see some, yep, we see some explosions. Oh, this is still the smoke shells. Alright, good. You see, if you switch the ammunition once, you have to switch back manually. And you also can see how well saturated the ground is. And I see some, oh, that was a big explosion. That was a big explosion. Now let's go and witness our efforts. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We could theoretically even kill ourselves if we just shoot and then quickly run to the point. And do we see anything? Nope, they are gone. Yeah, very nice. Now that you know how to use the mortars, it's time to learn when to use them. And this is the hard part, because the truth about mortar squads in Enlisted is they are very high variance. Meaning, even if you play them perfectly or if you play them with a lot of experience and technically well, it still oftentimes will do nothing, and sometimes it will do a lot. So the best way to, if you want to use them on a regular basis, just practice them and expect to roughly half the time not get any kills for like 2-3 minutes. But other times to get lots of kills, sometimes even dozens of kills. It doesn't even matter that much whether you're playing low BR with the small mortars or whether you're playing high BR with the big gigantic mortars. Since against infantry it makes a difference, because you're gonna get much easier lots of kills with the big mortars. But against tanks, both are fine, since the tanks will be way weaker on low BR. And since low BR also has many more open top tanks, you can expect to have the small mortars get many kills with them. So against vehicles it's not a problem. Against structures it also doesn't matter much. But against infantry and against things like buildings with thin houses and tops, yeah, against them the big mortars are much better. So on high BR the big mortars will be more effective, but the small mortars aren't that much worse. Now it makes a big difference whether you're an attacker or defender and what type of objective you're up against. Generally only use the mortars if the objective is perfect. Avoid wasting your time trying to make them work on suboptimal objectives. So objectives that look like they could be working, for example trenches, they are, well, in theory all you need to get is a bunch of mortar shells flying right into the trench and then you get lots of kills. Yep, in theory this would work in real life too, but also as in real life, some will hit, very few will, and due to the explosion mechanics in Enlisted, it won't lead to many kills. So trenches aren't a good objective for mortars. Open areas where you know many enemies will be, these are good objectives. Big open trench systems, for example, the Vysokolo West first objective, it has a big round opening in the center trench. This is quite good because there will be lots of infanterists there and there's basically no protection. So yeah, that works. Burnt down open houses like in the Birch Grove map, also in the Moscow campaign, also work well since they don't have any roofs. And they only have a few broken down walls, so your mortar shells will get a lot of explosion effect without being blocked by walls. And areas that are basically just plants, like jungle vegetation and small forest areas, they're also quite good. Because trees don't, as long as it's not too thick, trees won't block your shells. So everything that looks open from everything that's shellable from the top and doesn't have too many walls is good. Everything that gives the targets that you want to kill too much protection by having roofs or by having walls or by having other structures in between, yeah, that's usually not good. So once you located your good targets, make sure you're the first soldier to do something. So mortars, if the objective allows it, instantly take at the beginning of the game. And on the offense, it's basically perfect because the defenders, many of them have to be on the point if they want to defend. And most players don't understand the concept of offensive defense by just counterattacking. So they won't even leave the point, they will stay on the point. And this is perfect because then you can start shelling the objective. And since mortars require, including calibrating, maybe 3 to 4 seconds setup, and then roughly 13 seconds of flying time, you know for sure you will be the first soldier to get damage on the objective. Planes are way slower, they're not even allowed to spawn that quickly. And artillery strikes are also much slower. And even tanks need some time to drive out of the gray zone and being able to aim at the objective. So mortars are the perfect weapon if you want to get the absolutely first kills, and a lot of them at the beginning of the game. And after you've gotten something between 10 to 20 kills, look at the kill feed and see how many kills did your team get. If the kill amount reached roughly 30, you know the objective will be empty and it doesn't make sense to keep on shelling the point. In that moment, you want to switch to your second Mortar Men or reload the first one with an ammo box from your engineer and start shelling slightly behind the point. Now, even if you don't get any hit markers, behind the point will mean you aim 5 to 15 meters depending on how far behind you want to hit something, and you will shell the soldiers that are approaching to the point and coming to the point. And if you aim something like 50 meters behind the point, you will be able to hit all of the parked APCs and also all the ready point positions too. Though, the further away, the less likely that you hit enemies running around, since the further away from the objective you aim, the bigger the area gets. So if you want to get a high chance of kills, aim just a little bit, like 10 to 15 meters behind the point, and you will get all the enemies trying to get to the point and desperately save it from being kept. So as an attacker, quite easy to use. After you shot all of your shells, it doesn't make sense, and you've seen your team getting lots of kills, it doesn't make sense to keep on shelling. You will just waste your time because there's no one left to kill. In that moment, you either let your teammates capture the point, and you just run to the next position where you can hide well to shell the next point, or if the next point isn't shellable, just rush yourself on the point and start capping yourself, or just use your engineer to quickly flank on the far left or far right to build a rally for the next objective. So this is the high impact way of playing Mortar Men, knowing when to use them, and also knowing, alright, after the mortaring did its effect, what else do I do? And using the engineer to build quick rallies is the best way, because you can't expect every objective in the map be useful to mortars. And, well, even if it was, being able to affect the game not by simply just mortaring enemies, but also quickly building rally points and helping your team push forward and constantly keep up pressure, this is the best way. And these are exactly the most common mistakes. A, using mortars on objectives where they're ineffective. B, using mortars for too long after all of the targets got killed and then you're just wasting your rounds. And C, using just the Mortar Man and not the whole squad, because the whole squad offers you a lot of versatility. Because not only do you have 2 mortars, but you also, if you build it properly, which is what I'm going to explain a bit later, you always want an engineer, you always want a radio man, and you always want a sniper. Because all of these classes perfectly synergize. Now, obviously the engineer is great for building ammo boxes, but it's also great for pushing quickly to some area and build rally points. Be it on defense or offense. If you captured an objective, since you're not capping yourself, since you're staying far away, or possibly you're staying already on some flanking side, you're the perfect soldier to quickly rush to the next point, to build a quick rally. The radio man is perfect since you're usually far away from the action, meaning you're gonna survive. You can have your radio man constantly call artillery strikes, which is double effective with mortars because you can mortar one area and you can artillery strike another area. For example, and this is where game experience and map knowledge becomes highly useful. If you see an objective is quite mortarable, well, you mortar that, and then you expect where will the enemies place their APCs or place their rallies, and this is what you're gonna artillery strike. Or you can artillery strike the objective itself and do the mortaring on the common APC spots. Because people see the artillery strike and they will avoid placing the APC there, but they won't see the mortars coming. So yeah, but keep in mind though, the artillery strike takes more time. It takes roughly a half of a minute, 30 seconds after the start of the game until the artillery shells start blowing up. So mortar on the other hand only takes 15 to 20 seconds. So if you really want to be the first to clear out the objective, you still want to use the mortars on the point. Then the sniper, also perfectly synergistic with the mortar squad, since once again you're staying on distance to the action. You want, after you shelled everything or after there's nothing useful left to shell, you want to snipe the occasional enemy target. And this is where snipers are absolutely perfect. Also, while rushing to the next point or getting closer to the action, the best way to do so is obviously with a sniper, since you're always going to have the advantage of not just scouting the area, but also seeing enemies first and being able to get the first shot on them. And snipers also double up as spotters, because yeah, you can use binoculars, though snipers are usually a bit more useful. And this way you can just snipe or just scout around the map and find interesting targets, for example rally points, or hidden rally points with sandbags or APCs parked somewhere, mark them and then start shelling them with the help of the mark that you just set. So yeah, the whole squad setup is highly synergistic, and you want to use your whole squad as a mobile force that not just camps somewhere in the gray zone, but moves around the map depending on how the game progresses. So on the attack, they're quite simple. You just kill everything, you just take them at the beginning of the game and then you just move forward. On the defense, they're more complicated and less effective overall, because some objectives you want to shell right behind the objective, basically on the outline of the objective. Though sometimes if the enemies come more from the sides, your mortars won't be that effective. So for defenders, you usually have the problem that your objectives aren't that suited and you won't get as many kills. Though if the objective allows it, they can also still be effective, though I basically never use mortars on defense, only on offense. When using mortars, don't be scared if the theory doesn't translate well into practice, because as already implied, they are quite high variance. So even if you do everything wrong, sometimes or quite often they just won't work because you just get unlucky, or some enemy tank was somehow faster than you, or someone built an anti-tank gun and started shelling the point. So there's many ways, or enemies actually were smart and counter-rushed, or the objective mechanics got changed in the recent update and there's suddenly some roof, or the roof got fortified, now you can't penetrate it anymore. So yeah, there are many different ways that can go wrong. So don't be worried if it doesn't work. Just repeat it a couple of times, and if your mortars quickly lead to a capture, half of the time, so 50% of the time, then you know, yeah, you succeeded because you did very well. Because mortars, if they would work 100% of the time, would be one of the absolutely most dangerous, strongest squads in the game, which they aren't. They're just a squad that can be very strong if they work, but if they don't work, yeah, they don't do that much. But still, that's why you absolutely want to use the following setup with the engineer and radio man to make sure that even if the mortars don't work, you still get your artillery strike, and you still get your rally points, and you still get your sniping going on. And this is a running gag, obviously, that many squads are better at sniping than the sniper squads. For example, this squad, yeah, because I'd rather have a radio man and mortars and then start sniping than having to snipe every single soldier myself manually. Yeah, so this one sniper makes the squad basically a better sniper squad. If the squad could have two snipers, it would be 100% a better sniper squad, but it can't. But yeah, this one sniper makes a big difference. Similar to radio man squads, they're also basically better sniper squads. They're also similar to Mortar Men, because radio men, due to their double artillery strike rate, they can call artillery strikes twice as often. They're similar to mortars. Though mortars can be used parallel to artillery strikes, especially your teammates' artillery strikes, radio men can't. So if you want to completely blow up everything the enemies have, Mortar Men are just the biggest addition you can get. While grinding and upgrading your mortar squads, make sure to check which type you have, because there's the type of the assaulter and anti-tank gunner unlock, and the type with the assaulter and sniper unlock. Now the sniper version is obviously better, but if you have the other one, it can also be playable. In that case, you can afford being more aggressive and do more close combat fighting with the assaulter. The anti-tank gunner isn't really recommendable since you already have all the anti-tank capabilities you could wish for with your mines. But the assaulter will be significantly better if enemy infantry gets close, or you get close to enemy infantry to just spray them away. When equipping your squad, make sure everyone gets an anti-tank mine, because if you're playing on the retreat as a defender, you will, since you're already far away from the action, have all the time in the world to run around, find the good driving areas for enemy tanks, and very nicely spam them with your anti-tank mines, making sure that you 100% blow up the enemy tanks. Now this makes the squad actually quite useful also in defense, since you will be usually already perfectly where you would want to be to spam the anti-tank mines. This also requires a bit of game experience and map experience, but once you get it, you will reliably get every game 2 to 3 tank kills with your mines, which is one of the best feelings and most fun in the game. What about equipment and perks? Equipment is very simple. You want to use the rifle you're most comfortable with, and of course the X and flask combo, so you can charge around the map since you want to be very quickly while relocating, and of course a pistol, especially if you're playing low BR with a bolt action rifle, anti-tank mines, and then anti-infantry grenades, so you have something against both cases. When it comes to perks, Mortar Men are one of the weakest classes in the game because they only exist as tier 1 soldiers with the lowest amount of points possible. This means you absolutely want to use perfectly rolled Mortar Men and not imperfect ones who don't have 3 stars. And if you want a perfect perk combination, use this one. You can stop the video and copy it. It maximizes everything you want for a Mortar Man, all the mobility, all the flexibility, while also managing the low amount of points you have available. And for the end, I have 3 fast tips. First, since mortar squads are long-range specialists, you absolutely want to pair them with short-range focused squads, especially on a free-to-play account with only 3 infantry slots available. If you're playing Mortar Men, make sure you have something like assaulters or machine gunners, since these are perfect for rushing and even defending objectives, and optimally with an APC, because this gives you maximum mobility combined with your Mortar Men, which are also quite mobile while moving across the map. Second, if possible, play in a little group of 2 players, because then the second player can give you all the information and all the marks on the battlefield that you heavily rely on as a Mortar Man, making you much deadlier and also more fun overall. And third, there's a way to use mortars without having a mortar squad, and it's by playing Paratroopers and turning them into the mortar setup after landing and grabbing the mortar equipment from the box, giving you access to 1 engineer, 2 mortars and 3 riflemen. Alright, now you're perfectly prepared to annoy your enemies with unexpected explosions all over the battlefield and becoming their favorite enemy to play against. If you're new to the channel, of course, subscribe and drop a like, and share your funniest or greatest mortar stories in the comments below. Until soon, goodbye.